Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. My name is Kenny Bomer. Am I a racist? Absolutely not. If you've judged me based on a 15 to 20-second edited video, the color of my skin, the way I look, or because I'm a Muslim, I challenge you to watch this video or at least listen so that you can gauge my side of the story. I often say the consistency of a man defines who he is. And not once in all the years of my life has a single person ever accused me of being a racist. But unfortunately, that changed in September 2023 because of a 15 to 20-second video and people's desires to go viral on social media. But before I get into that, there was an article published on CNN where a woman was falsely accused of being a racist in a video that went viral. And then some people on the internet came to her rescue. And in that article, writer John Blake of CNN says the following, and I quote, "Just about every week we see the same story. Someone takes a jittery smartphone video of a white person caught in the act of doing something that's labeled racist. An army of online commentators mobilizes. The video goes viral. And the person in the video is publicly shamed, often losing a job or being ostracized by the community. His or her name becomes a hashtag for hate. The circulation of these racist outrage videos is so common that they become the online version of background noise. And the social scientist Eugenia Ciapera says they often trigger ambient digital racism, which is racially toxic online posts from ordinary people that are so commonplace they no longer shock. Yet there's another part of this story that is rarely told because it is not as commonplace. What happens when you're falsely accused of being racist in a video? How does your life change after you've become a racist meme? How do you handle your own outrage?" End of quote. And again, that was a quote from writer John Blake of CNN addressing this very issue, which is a very serious issue that I found myself being a target of just days before my third debate with David Wood, one of the world's most well-known anti-Muslim antagonists of anything and everything Islam. I was accused of being a racist and a misogynist after a well-known TikTok content creator, whom I'd never heard of before, published a video of me having a verbal altercation with a black man by the name of David Verberg at the counter of a grocery store deli. David Verberg is a 2016 Olympic gold medalist in track and field. The video went viral within hours. Just the day before my debate with David Wood, James Kuntz of Modern Day Debate sent me an email and informed me that the video in question had been sent to him and he was a bit concerned about it. He wanted to hear my side of the story. And so I'm going to read my email response to him, and I'll later expound upon a few things that I mentioned. James Kuntz happens to be the moderator and host of Modern Day Debate, and in my email response to him I say the following. "Good morning, James. The video does not show everything that transpired, and there are also claims made in it that did not happen. I never said a single rude word to the lady behind the counter. On the contrary, she was very rude to me. I was actually very patient with her. I ordered a 16-piece chicken only, and then she started to place the pieces into the bucket. However, she suddenly stopped and said, 'You can't get this. We don't have enough pieces.' So I asked, 'What do you mean?' And she said again, 'We don't have enough pieces,' and she said it very rudely. So I responded and said, 'You have 3 full pans there. I don't understand what you're saying.' And then she said again, 'You can't get this. You have to get something else,' and suddenly dumped the bucket into the pan. I then told her that I don't understand what the problem is and mentioned again that there were 3 full pans of chicken there. However, she just rolled her eyes at me as if I'd said something wrong and then said, 'You'll have to get dark meat.' And I said, 'Yes, I know I'll get dark meat. It's a 16-piece mixed,' which means I was ordering both white and dark meat. So I said, 'Ma'am, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I just don't understand what you're saying to me.' Then I asked, "Are there 4 breasts in the first pan?" To which she said yes. So I said, "Okay, there are 4 breasts in the first pan, and there are plenty of dark meat pieces in the other 2 pans." So she snatched up the bucket again and started placing the pieces of the chicken into the bucket. Meanwhile, a black guy walked up at some point. I don't really know when because I wasn't paying attention to him until I heard him say, "Ma'am, you're doing a good job," with an attitude like I was giving this lady a hard time. So I said, "Why are you saying it like that?" To which he replied, "You shouldn't speak to a lady like that." So I asked, "What do you mean?" "I haven't cussed this lady. I haven't cussed her, insulted her, haven't raised my voice in any way. I haven't said anything wrong to this lady." Then he looked me up and down and looked around like he was sizing me up in some way, as if he was going to do something physical. So I asked, "What?" And I said, "You need to stay out of another man's business." I could smell alcohol on him, and his eyes were a bit red, and I noticed that he was looking behind me, but I had no clue that there were some black ladies behind me who were obviously videoing what was happening. Then he said again, "You shouldn't talk to a woman like that." So I responded and said, "I'll talk to you like that." Because I hadn't been talking to the lady disrespectfully, but at that point I was getting angry, a bit angry, and I stepped towards him and I said again, "You need to stay out of another man's business." And then he said, "You need to back up." So I said, I'll back up, but not because you're intimidating me. You just need to stay out of another man's business." And at that point, I think he got what he was looking for, or what he was waiting for, rather, and started walking away, but was again looking back and then stopped like he was thinking about coming back to do something. So I said, "Keep walking before I take my belt off and whip you with it," which was a very poor decision and very poor choice of words, but race had absolutely nothing at all to do with what I said. And again, I said, "You need to stay out of another man's business." I go on to tell James in the email I was not happy about what transpired, and had already started asking Allah to forgive me for losing my patience, not with the lady, because I did not, but with the guy. I should have been more patient. I just didn't like him attempting to suggest that I was mistreating this lady behind the counter when she was actually being very rude to me and she had an attitude with me. I was actually very patient with her. And at that point, I went about my business and paid for my items and exited the store. And upon leaving the store, I noticed this same gentleman, David Verberg, way down to my left. My car was way down on the other side of the store on the right. So I got in my car and I backed out and was proceeding to the exit, which happened to be in the direction that he was, in when he started pulling out. But when he started pulling out, he was doing it very slow and with a sarcastic look on his face, like he was trying to instigate me. However, I never reacted. I remained calm and never made any facial gestures at all. And as he sat there for about 10 or 15 seconds, I could see him take his phone out and take a picture of my car with his phone. I was annoyed about it, and however, I fought off the urge to do something and just took a deep breath and asked Allah again to help me to stay calm and patient. And then he pulled out and I pulled out, and we went our separate ways. And when I got home, I say in the email, when I got home, the first thing I did was pray for both the lady and the man that I had encountered at the store, and ask Allah to forgive me for my lack of patience or for losing my temper. And again, I was not rude to the lady. I was rude to the guy, and I should not have said what I had said, but I by no means meant it in any racist way whatsoever. My wife is black. My brothers are black. You have met them both, I tell James in the email. I grew up around blacks. I've signed 2 record deals in my life and toured all over as a hip-hop artist. My sons are half Hispanic, I say in the email. My comment wasn't meant to be racist at all, but the video says I was insulting the lady and then threatened to whip this black man as if I'm a racist. The video also claims that I followed him out of the store and cussed him and spewed racial slurs at him, and those are lies. Allah knows the truth about the matter. Yes, I made a mistake, a foolish one. I just didn't like him accusing me of something I had not done, while I was purposely and thoughtfully trying to be very patient with the lady. Unfortunately, I failed to be consistent with my treatment of him, but I am by no means a racist. My black wife and my black foster brothers and those who know me personally certainly would have picked up on the fact that I was a racist if in fact I was a racist. I go on to say in the email, before I left the store, I did see the guy talking to the ladies behind me, and I've had a few people tell me that it looked like it was a setup, and if that's true, it doesn't matter. Everything's a test, and I could have made a better choice in how I dealt with the man. I failed that test, but I am by no means a racist, like they have accused me of being. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, who is black, is a licensed security guard who does private security for celebrities in the Houston area when they come to town. And I'm planning to have him there at the debate to help ensure that there's no drama. I'm also going to contact the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office to let them know I've been receiving death threats from people online saying that they're going to come to the debate to do me some type of bodily harm. I tell James it could all be just talk, but who knows. I end the email to James Kuntz by saying I do apologize for any and all negativity that this has generated, and I understand if you feel canceling the debate would be the best option. However, although I've been very stressed about this whole ordeal to the point of tears, I'm ready for the debate and I'm looking forward to it, God willing. And that was the end of my email response to James Kuntz. So again, some people have said that the whole ordeal with this David Verberg at the store looked like a setup. And the world of cancel culture and mob justice is real, and people are looking for their chance to be recognized. Everyone wants to go viral, and some are willing to go to extremes in order to be seen and to be recognized, even to the point of trying to destroy the lives of other people. And in this world of cancel culture in which we live, cell phones are like weapons of mass destruction. People are targeted and condemned by 10-second snippets of a video that, are, if taken out of context, leave the target destroyed, and society suffers as a whole. Consider for a moment the propaganda used against Saddam Hussein and the claims that the Iraqi government had weapons of mass destruction. The story was told over and over and over again all over the world. And before the invasion of Iraq, the world was totally convinced that Saddam was a madman who needed to be stopped at all costs. The story was a lie. And now the world knows that the liars were the ones with the weapons of mass destruction. Sometimes the liar is perceived as a victim, and the target of false accusations is made out to be the perpetrator. If you take a look at David Verberg's X or Twitter account, you'll see a very consistent pattern that shows that the same gentleman that I spoke to in this store incident routinely posts and makes comments about white people doing or saying something racist on his X or formerly Twitter account. It's therefore very apparent that he had a motive on the day in question. He's seen a white man having a disagreement with a black female deli worker and unjustifiably accused me of being rude to this lady when the reality is she was being extremely rude to me. David Verberg was not there during the entire discussion that I had with this lady, and therefore he had no justifiable reason to say I was being disrespectful to her. Not only was I not disrespectful, I never raised my voice, I never said a foul word, and I certainly didn't use any racial slurs during my interactions with her. Furthermore, David Verberg knew someone was videoing us, while I did not. So he took advantage of that by saying, you shouldn't be disrespectful to that lady, at least 3 times during that interaction that I had with him. He was taking on the role of a hero that wasn't really needed. I was not rude to the lady. I was rude to him while defending myself against his false allegations. It also appeared that David Verberg knew that there were 3 ladies behind me who were videoing this whole ordeal, because I saw him very clearly look at them, and I saw him again communicating with them after we parted ways inside of the store. And if you note in the video, you can actually see him look directly at these ladies during the last part of our interactions with one another. There's another article on this topic on Seeker.com. The title of that article is, "Why Do Some People Falsely Claim to Be Victims?" In that article, it says the following, and I quote, "Hoaxers often gain credibility through real or claimed membership in an oppressed or respected group. Our culture bestows respect and credibility on certain groups such as mothers, members of the military, professionals, some minorities including the gay community, the elderly, clergy, and others. In many cases, the claims themselves are often lacking sufficient details. They are plausible enough to be taken seriously by supporters and the public, but when police and experienced investigators examine the story, parts don't add up." End of quote. Now let's make it clear, I made a mistake. I've embarrassed myself. But not because I'm a racist or because I made any racist comment whatsoever. Everything in this life is a test, and I failed the test on that day in question by losing my temper, and not because I was a racist, but because I was impatient. The color of David Verberg's skin wasn't an issue at all for me. My issue was him butting into another conversation that he had nothing to do with, that did not concern him, while attempting to accuse me of something that I was not guilty of. To me, he was just some young kid sticking his nose where it didn't belong. I felt insulted, and I was attempting to insult him in return by questioning how his parents had raised him, meaning they should have raised him to stay out of another man's business. Therefore, I said I would take off my belt and I'd whip him with it, which was a very poor choice of words. And I said it as if his parents failed to raise him properly. That's what was on my mind. However, the man's parents had nothing to do with what was said, so no offense to them. And I should have been more patient with him. And if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would look at him, look him in the eye and extend my hand to him. I would apologize to him for losing my temper, not for saying anything racist, because I did not. Again, he wasn't there for the entire conversation that I had with the lady behind the counter, who happened to be black. And when I initially asked him why he said what he said, saying that she's doing a good job, I commend him for saying someone's doing a good job and so forth. But she was actually doing a very poor job that day, being very rude. And when I initially asked him why he said what he said the way he said it, he looked around and looked me up and down as if he wanted to do something physically. So he looked at me that way 3 separate times, and it's not all picked up in the video because that video has been edited. And anyway, so one of those times that he looked at me like this was when he again was walking away, and he stopped and he looked back as if he was considering coming back to do something physical, which happens to be part of the video that was conveniently left out. And again, even in his Twitter account, his X account, he admitted that he thought about striking me at some point in his statement there. And I could tell during our interaction that he was thinking about doing so because of the way he looked at me up and down and was looking around in order to, gauge who was watching and so forth. But again, he knew the video was being recorded, so he played the role of a victim and a hero, and he walked away. And again, that was after I let him know that if he wanted to, escalate things, I was more than willing to accommodate him. By taking off my belt and and teaching him a lesson in manners that his parents didn't teach him, and that was what my thinking was at the time. It was a very poor choice of words, but of course I wasn't worrying about that day. I was simply letting him know that his best option was to go on about his business, and I should have used better choice of words. But what I said literally had nothing at all to do with race. Race wasn't on my mind at all. And he also lied and said that I followed him out of the store and cussed him and spewed racial slurs at him. Those are absolute lies. I never said a foul word, and I certainly didn't say anything racist. And surveillance from the store, surveillance video from the store, will clearly prove that. And I'm in the process of trying to get that to prove that, and it'll prove that I certainly didn't follow follow him out of the store. And plus, on top of that, there was a black Houston police officer at the doorway working security that day. And he certainly would have picked up on the fact that I was spewing cuss words and racial slurs at this David Verberg, if in fact, I had been doing so. But I certainly had not been doing so. So, with that being said, if I was a racist, would I have, accepted Islam after hearing about it from one of my high school football coaches who happened to be black, and then along with that very same black coach, go on to be partners in the music business in the mid '80s in the genre of hip hop and rap, which is a genre of music considered to be black music? Would I have written a song at that time titled "Nothing But a Redneck" at the age of 18 or so when I wrote the lyrics of that song, which were condemning the bigotry committed against blacks at the hands of racist white people? Would members of the Nation of Islam, the black Muslims, at that time have worked our security at our live performances if they picked up on me being some type of a racist? Would I be closer to my own my black foster brothers than I am my own blood brother if I was a racist? Would I have been married to a Hispanic woman for 22 years and have 2 half Hispanic sons with her if I was a racist? Would I marry a black woman as my second wife after divorcing the mother of my sons if I was a racist? Would I have engaged in fundraising to have 10 water wells built in various cities and towns and villages in Accra, Ghana, in the continent of Africa, that are sponsored by myself and other affiliates of the Consider This TV network if I was a racist? Would I have protested in the streets of Houston with thousands of people over the unjustifiable death of George Floyd if I was a racist? Would I have protested alongside United States Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, a black woman, over the unjust separation of Mexican families at the Texas-Mexico border and the unjust detention of Mexican children who were housed in cages like animals and criminals in a facility in downtown Houston if I was a racist? Would I have protested the unjust treatment of my Indian Muslim brothers and sisters in India at the hands of Modi and his unjust government? Would I have spoken out numerous times about the unjust treatment of people in Palestine by the Israeli government while the world just sits idly by watching all the atrocities continue if I was a racist? Would I have written about how Islam is the solution for racial divides and racism in my book Consider Islam if I was a racist? Would I be a Muslim standing alongside people of different races and places and different colored faces during our prayers if I was a racist? Would I have done all of that and more if in fact I was a racist? Or could it be that I simply did not like another man, David Verberg, sticking his nose in my business and accusing me of something that I had not done based on the alcohol that I smelt on his breath and possibly his own false presumptions and his own racism about the color of my skin at the time, a time when people are looking for an opportunity to find the next Karen or Ken saying something that could be perceived as racist so that they could make a video and get likes and subscribers and views and go viral on social media platforms. I am by no means a racist, not even close. Nor was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But Islamophobes still unjustifiably accused the Prophet, peace be upon him, of being a racist nearly 1,450 years after his death. So I'm in good company. And I know that Allah will balance the scales on the Day of Judgment between myself and anyone who's accused me or insulted me or falsely accused me of being a racist. It'll all balance out on the Day of Judgment. I'm not a racist. This is something that I've spent a lifetime, the vast majority of my life, speaking out against one way or another. I'm going to end with another article on Seeker.com. Why do some falsely claim to be victims? And it goes on to say in that article, false report claims typically fit widely accepted cultural narratives, such as a gay waitress being the victim of homophobic slurs, or a young black woman being targeted by racists, or a young white woman being attacked by a black man. Many false reports are committed as a way to bring attention to a legitimate social problem, such as racism, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and hate crimes. By adopting the public image of a victim and a social justice crusader, the hoaxer not only enjoys the sympathy and public support of others who support their cause, but also the attention. By implicitly aligning the false claims with a larger, valid social issue, the hoaxer discourages a close examination of their claims. So it basically undermines actual true racism and true claims and of people that are truly victims in this world. So we have to ask ourselves, are such lies and false accusations commonplace? Absolutely. And they undermine again the true victims of hate crimes and prejudice used against them. A prime example of this would be the case of Jussie Smollett, who lied about being a victim because he was seeking attention. He was an actor who had the world at his fingertips, but he lied. So let me ask you, regarding David Verberg, does a man having the ability to run fast negate his ability to lie fast? And I'll end by saying, if you still believe I'm a racist, so be it. I know who I am and what I am, and I know, who and what I am not. And so do the people who truly love me and know me and love and care for me. Most of all, my Creator knows that I'm not a racist. And I'm more than satisfied with that. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. The consistency of a man defines who he is.